let's look at another scenario, because I want to start, that worked for, I had a microwave, I installed it, and I wanted to bill the tenant. What if there is a cost? It's not going to go to the tenant itself. I just need to pay a vendor to do the work. So let's open up. I'm going to go ahead and close that service issue. Let's say this work was finished. And I'm going to create a new service issue. Services, new issue. This time, we're going to do some bathroom renovation work at one of the properties. So the bathroom really needed to be updated, but the tenant didn't do anything wrong, or maybe there's not even a tenant. It's an unoccupied unit. So we just need to pay for this work to be done. So I'm going to say a shower renovation. All right. Again, I can flag this however I want in terms of categorizing things, but what we're interested in is these costs. So let's say that this time we are going to do this work at Buckeye Hall. This unit, Unit 2A, is where the work is going to be done. So I've selected the unit. In this case, there is a tenant in place, but we're updating the bathroom because we're just trying to sort of up our game in terms of making these units more marketable. This is not something that Mike Bronson, the tenant, is going to have to pay for. So what we're going to do down here is sort of identify the costs of the work. So maybe in this case, in terms of materials and supplies, I have created an item for that. And this is any material that is needed for repair, specify in the comments section. So this is where I could write everything that I really need for the supplies. So it's a little bit more generic. And I made that item generic intentionally. And I'm going to say that that's going to cost, about $4,000. We're doing the cost of the supplies will be $4,000. And notice that I'm not doing any kind of markup. So the base cost and the sales price are the same. Now, that's only part of it, because buying the supplies is one thing, but I also need labor. And I have an item specifically for that. Miscellaneous labor. And I'm going to say that it's going to take 16 hours of labor to get that work done. You'll notice that when I typed in labor, the default cost and the sales price both populated. So in general, I usually charge $20 an hour for labor, or that's usually what's charged of me. And then the markup, if I was going to have a markup, was $25. Now I'm going to go ahead. Notice if I try to save this, I get that set up in place. But there's a couple things that I'm missing, right? I don't have these supplies, and I don't have this labor. I need to purchase that. I'm not going to do it in-house. I need to get third parties to do it. So I could come over here and go, all right, well, I need a vendor bill. But when I check the vendor bill box, it goes, I can't do that for you. You haven't specified the vendor. Who is going to provide the supplies? Who's going to provide the labor? So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to say the supplies I am going to purchase from Lowe's. And then the labor, I have got a guy that I work with, John Batson. He's a private contractor, and he's going to be the one to take those supplies and actually transform them into a renovated shower. So now, once I save that, I do have vendors specified, so I can check the vendor bill in both of these cases. I don't have the supplies, I don't have the labor, I need to pay the vendors to do this work. I am going to click Create Item Links here, and watch what that does. Rent Manager goes, all right, make sure I got to save the service issue in its current state before I can create those transactions. I'm going to say yes. Now, I see dates. This is the date of the bill that was created. Now, I'm going to click on that because, once again, it's a hyperlink. It allows me to jump. And I'm seeing that this bill has now been created in Rent Manager. The bill is meant to go to Lowe's. in the amount of $4,000, which was the base cost of the supplies. And if you recall, I don't even have a markup anyway, but it's for the base cost. And there is the GL account. Whenever I purchase supplies, it gets coded to 5203 materials because that's how I set up that particular item. Notice the labor is not showing up on here. Why? The labor was to a different vendor, right? So Rent Manager was smart enough to know I need to create a different bill. So the second hyperlink here is to John Batson. We are going to pay him for that, I believe it was 16 hours of labor, which comes out to $320. Whenever I have to pay for that labor item type, it shows up as 5102 labor. If, back on this service issue, if you have a bunch of line items, but they all go to the same vendor, Rent Manager can merge all of those costs and expenses into a single bill. So you wouldn't have to worry about, like, you know, if both of these had been Lowe's, so if Lowe's was the vendor and Lowe's was going to be the one doing the installation, Rent Manager would have put all of that into one bill instead of separating it out. But because there's two different people, we've got to do it separately. And again, if we go and look at our report, so in this case, I'm going to go back and I'm going to run this for Buckeye Hall. So it's a different property. Again, my report date is just a one-day thing. That's why you're not seeing rent or any other kind of transactions here. But Buckeye Hall has paid $320 of labor and $4,000 to materials. Now, let's look at another scenario. Let's say that we have, let's do that microwave scenario. And who did I do the microwave with the first time? Charlie Apagian. So let's do another one. I'm going to close this service issue. So same kind of thing. We have a microwave. The tenant broke it. So the tenant needs to pay for the microwave. But at the same time, we don't have a microwave. So I'm actually going to have to go out to some store to purchase the microwave. So let's go through that scenario here. I'm going to go into Service Issues, New Issue. All right, replace microwave. And I'm going to say Jane Brandekamp. So I'm going to type the name of a tenant over here. Jane Brandekamp is a tenant at 1127 Blackwell, which I believe is a duplex in my database. Again, I can set this stuff as I need to. The item in question is a microwave. I need one. Notice Rent Manager defaults the cost to $85. The markup that I had is $99 gets tacked on, which gives me to $184. The tenant owes me for this. They broke the microwave, so I'm going to check tenant invoice, but I have to go buy a microwave, so I need a vendor bill. Oh, that's right. I haven't specified the vendor yet. So let's go back over here, and I'm going to go buy it from Home Depot. Having a vendor set allows me to check the vendor box. These are the responsible parties. The tenant is going to pay, and just to be clear, he's going to pay for the markup. And then the vendor bill is going to create a bill for the base. So the property is actually going to come out on top, right? The property is going to get their markup because it didn't cost us as much to buy the microwave as it is what we sold it to the tenant for. Now, the other thing that I had mentioned earlier, remember when you saw that taxable error? I want to show you how to use taxable real fast as well. So I'm going to go back into the items. Let's say that every time we sell a microwave, we've got to collect sales tax. And so I am going to, so if you have charges where you know you wanted to collect sales tax from the tenant, this is what you would do. You go into the item, you just tell Rent Manager that it's a taxable item. And that's how it was before. But if you'll recall, Rent Manager gave me an error when I had tried to create the invoice because it said the tenant that you're creating the invoice for doesn't have a tax type defined. So what I'm going to do now is go to Jane Brandecamp's account. So I typed brand up here in command launch to quickly jump to Jane's account. And you'll notice here on the general tab for Jane, there is a tax type field. Now she does have a tax type set as sales tax. And if this list is empty for you, it's because you have to create your own tax type. So I've got different taxes with different percentages, but there's the sales tax. So when I do have to invoice for tax, it knows to use my sales tax amount. So I'm going to go into the service issue, and I'm going to create these item links. Invoice 25 is created, and a new bill. So let's look at the invoice. The invoice has the microwave here for $184. And you'll notice this little T box that stands for taxable is checked because Rent Manager is also factoring in a 6% sales tax onto the account. So you can see the total amount of the invoice here is $195.04. So it did add some tax to it. If I go to Jane Brandecamp's account real fast, you'll notice the 2 charges have been added to the account from that invoice. The general repairs for $184, as well as the sales tax of $11.04. So that's an easy way then to sort of calculate and pass on the tax onto the invoice itself. Now going back to that service issue, we can see the vendor bill that was created. The vendor bill for Home Depot. Again, the base price of the microwave was $85. So this property, 1127 Blackwell, is being expensed to this GL account for $85. Now notice there's no tax on there. So the Rent Manager, those taxable options only apply to the invoicing side when you're charging the tenant, not so much on the vendor side of it. So it's just important to keep that in mind. Now, if I run the report for this time, we're doing 1127 Blackwell. Again, I just want you to see that financial impact. So the tenant paid the markup, the property paid the base. So we actually netted some income here, right? $184 of miscellaneous repairs, $85 was the actual cost to replace the microwave. The P&L is reflecting the income and the expenses the way that I would want to, or based on the way that my accountant wanted to see it. Now, let's look at another scenario here. I'm going to try to speed things along here because I've got a few more examples, but I definitely want to make sure that I get around to the questions that are being typed in. Let's do another microwave. So I'm going to close some of these. I'm going to go to Services, New Issue. Yet another microwave. I like to stick with similar examples so that we can be on the same page of what's going on. Yet another microwave replacement. They're just breaking everywhere. It's nuts. This time, the microwave is going to be replaced at, let's do... I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Clear Creek. Let's do Clear Creek. Clear Creek condos. And maybe it's at a particular unit. Clear Creek condos. 1123. There we go. Randy Wilkin, you're tapped. So now, the microwave broke in this scenario. I need another microwave. However, it's not Randy's fault. It was old. It was gross. It just needed to be replaced. Now, I need to buy a microwave, so I'm going to put in Home Depot over here. And instead of picking vendor bill this time, I'm going to pick owner bill. So this is something that would jump out to you if you're a fee-based management company and you're looking at, who's paying for what. Owner bill is really something that applies to fee-based management. So owner operators, you're probably not going to use this very often. But here's what I want to show you, because this might not come out the way that you would expect. So we know when we do a vendor bill that I would be paying Home Depot for the base cost of $85. So I'm thinking, all right, with the owner bill, the owner's going to get billed, and I'm charging it to the owner. Well, I'm going to create that item link. So the owner bill has been created. When I click on it, you'll notice, look, the vendor is still Home Depot. The only thing that changed here was the amount of the bill. Instead of it using the base cost, it used the sales cost. But it's still Clear Creek condos being expensed, and so it's just for the full amount. So you might look at that and go like, well, then I don't understand the difference. And when I choose vendor bill, it's a bill for the vendor. That makes sense to me. But when it's an owner bill, shouldn't it have billed the owner? If you think about it, if you look at what we're staring at right now, this is a bill for the owner. Because who owns Clear Creek condos? The owner of that property. So this property is about to pay $184. When we pay this bill, $184 will come out of that property's bank account, and the money in that bank belongs to the owner. So this is a bill for them. So functionally, when you are looking at the service issues, the vendor bill and the owner bill, the difference is the vendor bill is for the base cost, the owner bill is for the sales price. But this comes to the major scenario that I wanted to cover, which is, all right, well, I'm a fee-based management company. My management company wants to pay the base price, but then I want the owner to pay me for the sales price. I'm going to collect my markup from the owner. How do I do that? I'll show you. It sounded very aggressive. Well, how do I do that, Chris? All right, calm down. I'm going to show you right now. We're going to do microwave replacement. Owner pays markup, just so that we understand what the scenario is. This is sort of the super secret scenario to make it all magically work. This case, I'm going to 214 Cozumel is going to be the property where we do this work. It's for a microwave. It's for one microwave. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm checking. I got to pick a vendor. This time I genuinely forgot that. Let's say we're getting it from Lowe's this time. I am checking both the vendor bill and the owner bill. Both of those options are checked at the same time when I go to create these item links. It's key that both of those items are checked and that I create the bills together, because watch what happens. In this scenario, I'm going to click on the vendor bill. So notice that in this line item, 214 Cozumel is where the work is being done, where one microwave is going to be installed. But the vendor bill is going to pay Lowe's $85, which is the base price. But look at the property that's being expensed. It's not 214 Cozumel, it's PMC. Premier Management Company. Rent Manager identifies that your management company, you, the management company, are going to pay the base price to the vendor. If we now go into our service issue and the other service issue here and click on Owner Bill, this bill, notice who the vendor is. Premier Management Company. Premier Management Company needs to be paid $184. Who's going to pay that? 214 Cozumel. In other words, the owner, out of that property is going to pay the markup cost of $184. That's the scenario where the owner is paying you the markup. Management company pays the base. The owner pays the markup. If we look at that report, so that's 214 Cozumel. The P&L for the owner's property shows $184 because that's what they're paying. Notice here this other profit and loss, which is Premier Management Company. This is the first time that our management company has been billed $85. So the management company would pay $85 to the vendor. Since you control the owner's trust account, when you pay that bill, that 184, was it? That $184 bill, you will deposit that check into your business's operating bank account, and you'll just put that in as a step 3 deposit inside of Rent Manager. And that's how the management company then will show a net income, because once you put in that step 3 deposit, you'll be back in the black instead of in the red as it stands right now.